What is up, Flick fans, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to a celebration of sorts. Today we are talking about one of my favorite animated trilogies of all time. That is right, the third movie is not out yet, but it is coming out tomorrow. Let me know what you guys think of it once you see it. My review is on this channel right now. It's floating above my head somewhere, and I will put the link at the end of this video. But today we're not just talking about the third movie, we are talking about all three movies in the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy. Like I said, one of my favorite animated trilogies of all time, and I'm so happy that I have the chance to say that. I didn't know how the third movie was going to measure up. I figured it was going to be great, but you never know until you actually watch the film. And this video is such a hard thing to do because it's so hard to rank three movies that mean so much to you. Three films that each distinguish themselves from the other movies in the trilogy, and that's what I'm going to attempt to do today. But just so you know, and it should be obvious, I love all three of these films. Just because there is a movie at number 3 does not mean, oh, I hate the film, it's clearly my least favorite. No, what separates these movies is literally, from my rating scale anyway, it's literally just a few percentage points. That's it. I gave them all close to a 9 out of 10, a 90%, and that is something that is very triumphant if you're talking about three films in the same franchise. But I'm done talking. Let me know in the comments down below, where would you rank these movies? Which one's your favorite? Which one's your least favorite? Did one not measure up to the other two films? But now we start with number 3.
Number 3.
And the irony of this being number 3, and that is How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. That is the brand new outing in this franchise, and I'm not putting it at number 3, like I said, because I don't like the film or it doesn't measure up. It does measure up. This movie is as good as the first two in the trilogy. It's just those first two have such a special place in my heart, and this one could have that eventually, but I've watched them many more times in this third movie. I just haven't given it the chance enough. And you say, well, Austin, that shouldn't matter. You shouldn't put it at number 3 just because you haven't rewatched the film. Well, to me, rewatchability is very important. The fact that the first two, I have watched them so many times and they continue to hold up on every level is very important to me. And you say, well, Austin, you shouldn't put it at number 3 just because you haven't rewatched the movie. And that's a very valid critique, and I understand that. But I've watched those first two films so many times and I've seen so much goodness from them. I've been able to dive deep into those plots, whereas I've only seen this movie once. I've not been able to delve into the characters as much or notice the very intricate details that I know this franchise will continue to give us as I go back and watch all three of these movies, this one especially, but that doesn't mean it's not good. I loved this movie. It is, at this point in the year, as I'm making this video, my favorite movie of 2019, and that is impressive because I've watched 31 films at this point. It is a movie that is going to stick with you. It's going to hit you on every emotional level. It is the cap of all caps to this franchise. It will leave you wanting more, even though it wraps it up in such a way that is so beautiful and emotional, and you get the satisfaction of an ending to a lot of these characters' arcs and storylines, and that's so impressive. It is very rare that a sequel can deliver on all of those things. It can give you the ending that you believe that you deserve as a viewer and as a lover of the How to Train Your Dragon franchise, and that's what this movie gives you. This movie, just because it's in my number 3 spot, and I know I'm going to keep hitting on this, I want to reiterate, I love this film. It is so good, and eventually, as I watch this film more, it could move up, but right now, I have to put it at number 3.
Number 2.
Next up, and you can tell where this list is going, I am doing this numerically because How to Train Your Dragon 2 is at number 2. Once again, just slightly, because there have been moments in my life where I'll say, you know what, number 2 is better than number 1. Number 1 is better than number 2. But as of right now, in this moment, I am putting How to Train Your Dragon 2 at number 2. And it's kind of confusing to me because why would they go with a subtitle for the third with The Hidden World and then do the second one as How to Train Your Dragon 2 instead of like How to Train Your Dragon Mama's Home? Oh, and as you can tell, I'm going to be a bit less vague with this one because the third movie, it's not even out yet when this video is releasing, so I had to be careful and tiptoe around anything spoilerific. I'm not going to dive deep, but I am going to talk about a bit more of the plot with these two films, but I love this second movie. This took everything that the first one did and expanded it and gave you a deeper storyline. It gave you a more intense plot, something that was even a bit more adult than the first, and the first one has many adult themes and leaves you on a note to where you're like, like, dang, is this a kid's movie? But this movie does that multiple times, and I would actually say this is the most adult film of the entire franchise. And it's really hard putting this at number 2 because usually I like the sequels that do things bigger and better than the original, and that is what this does with multiple story points. Now, the story as a whole, I still think I like the first just a tad more, and that's why it's a bit higher on this list, spoilers. But the fact that they discover this cave with hundreds of new dragons, and then the Dragon Rider, that character, the mysterious character that you know nothing about in the first, I believe, third of the film, and then you discover that this is not just anyone, this is the mother of Hiccup. What an interesting plot point. What an incredible thing to throw at an audience that is already emotionally invested with the father storyline, and then you get the mother. My goodness, that dynamic, the shift, the change in the heart of the father and Hiccup and all of the characters. It is so cool to see how they have evolved since she has been gone, seeing her relationship with them, and hearing Cate Blanchett as the role of the mother. Perfect casting. Now, it's a story that we have seen before once you figure out, oh, the mother's been gone this whole time. It actually just happened in Aquaman. Think about that. Think about how similar that storyline is to this one in terms of the mother has been gone for a long time in a hidden world. Nobody knew she was alive, and then she comes back and she's covered in like dragon skin, and it's very similar. But you have the family dynamic going on. You have Jaimon Hansu as the villain, as Drago, and I think he works so well in this film. And then, of course, Astrid and Hiccup and everything going on with the dragons. You can't forget about Toothless and how he is maturing to later on become as close to royalty as you possibly can. I love everything about this movie. I think all of the plot points, even though there's a lot more going on in the first, I think it balances it all so well. This is probably the biggest blockbuster of the three, but they're each their own thing, and they each do their own thing very well, and that's why I love number 2, and that is why it is so close to my number 1. Ask me on a different day, it's probably going to be my number 1. That's why I'm inconsistent.
Number 1.
But I have to do it. My number 1 favorite movie in the How to Train Your Dragon franchise is Pete's Dragon. No, just kidding. It's the first How to Train Your Dragon. This movie is incredible, and the reason why I love it so much is because the other 2 films in this franchise are bigger, but that doesn't necessarily mean they are better. This keeps it simple. This is the boy and his dog story. We've seen it so many times with things like The Iron Giant and E.T. and Bumblebee last year, but this movie does it right. It hits all of those notes that you want it to hit, but it also brings this level of substance and emotion that you rarely see in an animated movie. And I'm not putting that stigma on animated films. I'm just saying How to Train Your Dragon really kind of transcended that bubble that is around animated films and made this a movie for kids, for adults, but also for people who love a good family story. This is a movie about family and your home, where you live. And that carries on, especially into the third film. The third film is probably the most about where you live and what it means to have a home, but those notes are definitely hit on in the first film. And the fact that the place is called Burke, I think that's pretty cool. But let's talk about the voice cast here. It is incredible, phenomenal. Every casting choice in this film, I think, is perfection. Gerard Butler as the father, yes, please, returning with his voice from 300. I love that casting, but Jay Baruchel, he is the man. He is the reason why I think this franchise works so well, because he has that likability about him, but you can really dive deep into the character that he brings on screen, and that's because the phenomenal voice work and the way he goes about playing this character. And then, of course, Toothless. Everyone in the world wants to say, my cat is toothless, my dog is toothless. Why is that? Well, it's because this is a character that is now in the hearts and the souls of fans of this franchise, and they see their animals and their pets in this dragon, and I think that's the best possible thing that these filmmakers could have done and could have made work, is they made Toothless relevant, and they made Toothless likable as a character, and they see that dynamic, like I said, the boy and his dog storyline. I love that storyline, and I love how simple this first film is. Dragons are bad. The entire village has hunted dragons all of their life, but all it takes is one to realize that things are not as they seem. That's the story. That's the premise. Of course, it has its heroes and villains, and that dynamic is interesting, but what we love here is the fact that Hiccup is transcending what these people believe in, and the world building. I think the world building in this entire franchise, not just the first film, is awesome. And let's talk about the visuals of all 3 movies. Now, it has continued to get better. I think The Hidden World is some of the best and most visually stunning scenes I've ever seen, ever, in animation in my life. It is such a beautiful movie to look at, but it really starts in this first movie, because what this first movie does, the landscapes and the backgrounds and just the design of everything, I think works super well, and I love the look of this film. And yes, the voice cast, but the score and the soundtrack, the score to How to Train Your Dragon is possibly my favorite animated score of all time. I can hear it playing in my head right now, just thinking about the trailers and the way that this movie evokes emotion from the audience. All of that, not all of that, but a lot of that comes down to how this movie sounds, and it sounds incredible. And when I say this movie, I don't just mean the first. At this point in the video, I'm talking about all three movies, how they look great, they sound great, they feel great. Guys, this franchise is, like I said, one of my favorite, not just animated franchises, one of my favorite trilogies of all time, because all three movies handle themselves so well. They're each their own piece of the puzzle, but they fit in brilliantly, and they each bring something different to the table, and that's what I love, and that is why I couldn't wait to make this video, because it gives me the chance to tell you guys how much I love these movies. So thank you so much for watching this video. Like I said, get in the comments section down below. Let me know, do you like How to Train Your Dragon? Which one is your favorite and least favorite in the trilogy? But really, when you say least favorite, I don't have a least favorite. I can't say I do anyway, because I love all three of these almost equally. Sorry I used my hands so much. I noticed I did it a lot in this video. My wife says it's how I express myself, but I'm just an animated person, and sometimes I take it a bit too far. Thank you guys once again so much for watching this video. As always, I will be back with more tomorrow. My review for Fighting with My Family. On Friday, of course, it's a Netflix and Doom Patrol kind of day. And then Saturday, the big one we have all been waiting for, at least I have. It's the Flick Fan Awards. Got a lot of videos coming in right now, people presenting, people that you may recognize on YouTube, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and like I said, the How to Train Your Dragon, the Hidden World review is now on this channel. You can check that out. The link will be in there here in just a second. I will catch you guys very soon.